How's it going, guys? It's Avi from Weather Sponge 5000. Today is January 7th, 2020, as it's currently 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time right now in the afternoon, as we're going to take a look at this little disturbance and the Northwest Pacific for this video. And also, we're obviously going to talk about the major snowstorm that could occur later next week, where we could see later during the week, where we could see hefty snow across the Great Lakes region and even portions of the interior Northeast, and also the severe weather threat in the Southeast later next late during the late week. So we're gonna keep track of all those in the video, but as of right now, we're experiencing a little bit of a snowstorm in the Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Maryland region that's dumping probably around heavy to moderate snowfall right just west of the Harrisburg area, and it's dropping a little, and there's also several thunderstorms just south of it that's being caused by the strong instability in the North Carolina region. As I'll show you how strong this instability is, how strong the contrast is between temperature. Like around the Greenville area, it's 64, but you go probably only about 50 miles east, it drops to the 40s, which is quite insane, which is showing how strong that instability really is, and what strong contrast in temperature causes is it forces that warmer, less dense air to rise, and since the air is less dense, it holds more water than the cooler air that's currently just to the west of that warmer air, and it's forcing it to rise, causing these thunderstorms to develop, and as a result, just creating precipitation that's in the form of snow just to the north of it, where temperatures are just cold enough to where we're seeing snowfall in Pennsylvania. So this storm isn't anything huge. It's a pretty weak low pressure system as of right now. However, it's expected to strengthen as the low pressure moves more to the northeast, where that low pressure system will go over the very warm waters of the Gulf Stream just off the coast. But it won't be anything big for the northeast, because by the time this storm develops into anything big, it's going to be well off the shore of the northeast coast, to where the northeast really won't experience the worst or the strongest of this storm, because the storm's going to be well offshore by the time it reaches its strongest point. It might affect Canada later during the line, but as for the US and New England, the Northeast, it should mainly be a relatively weak storm that won't really drop any more than, I would say, like 4 to 5 inches, and that's in the very localized regions. As for this snowstorm, I mainly expect around 1 to 3 inches in most areas. There might be localized amounts like 4 to 5, but for the most part, 1 to 3 inches, especially around the the middle portions of Pennsylvania. As for the bigger cities like New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., I don't expect any accumulation, for one thing, and for one is because it's going to be too warm, and even if it does snow, the ground is going to be warm, and the storm is going to move too fast and won't be strong, and the snowfall won't be strong enough to where it could accumulate on the pavement and in the city. So taking a look at the forecast snowfall, and you could see that the snowfall isn't very big. The highest you'll get is in the higher elevations of West Virginia, where you're bound to see heavier snowfall and cooler temperatures, to where the accumulation should be a little bit higher, maybe up to 5 inches in some areas of the higher elevations of West Virginia. But other than that, it should mainly stay as a weak snowstorm. And but even with these weak snowstorms, you don't want to take it lightly, because even if these snowstorms only dump like an inch or two of rain, it could dump in a very fast pace, and it seems like that's what's happening right now for Pennsylvania. However, I do think the temperatures are above freezing in some areas, so it might not accumulate as much as the radar says or indicates, but the snowfall still but it's still like something to keep in mind, especially in the areas below freezing where accumulation could be could make the roads a little bit icy and a little bit tough to travel, especially in the more local roads, which is common in this area of Pennsylvania where the area is mainly rural. So that's definitely something to keep in mind in the Pennsylvania area, as you might see snow in the eastern portions of the mid-Atlantic, but it won't be anything major, like I said, and probably won't even accumulate. Maybe an inch at best in some of these areas. So that's so just keep that in mind if you're in New Jersey. I don't expect any accumulation, but just be ready if it does accumulate, because I wouldn't rule it out either, since we've seen snow that came out of nowhere so far in New Jersey. But other than that's and then looking at the future for this light snowstorm, you we move forward a little by little, and it turns into full snow in Harrisburg, probably around 2 inches I expect in that area. And then for most of New Jersey, New York, Long Island, it should be a rain event, but I expect in the back side of this you may see some snow, but I don't think it's enough to really accumulate. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind if you're in the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast regions. And then moving forward, moving more towards the Midwest, we see isolated snow showers, and it's the result of a cold front that's just around the North Dakota, Montana, and Minnesota area that's bringing mainly light snow to the region. And you could probably indicate where that cold front is, because there's a stark temperature contrast between a couple areas. It's 5 degrees in northern Minnesota, but go probably only about 100 miles, a little bit more than 100 miles south, and you're pretty much back around the 20s, which is a pretty stark contrast and really indicates where that cold front really is. And it's dropping isolated snow showers. I don't really expect much from this. However, it should enhance the lake effect snow showers that around the Northeast region as a result of this cold front. So keep that in mind if you're around the lakes, because it could enhance the lake effect snow probably like late tomorrow to even Thursday. So keep that in mind if you're in the Great Lakes. And then other than that small cold front, we do see rain and just a lot of precipitation in the Northwest region, and that's expected to continue for the next week and beyond, because we're seeing a pattern where there's currently a strong high pressure system that's just off the coast of California, and that high pressure system is just far south enough to where it creates a weakness, where there's a weakness in ridging right around the Northwest Pacific region, and that's bringing a lot of low pressure systems across the Northwest Pacific, as Seattle won't probably see sunlight anytime during the week, as it's mainly going to be rain and potentially a snow event, which is a little bit rare for Seattle. So definitely keep that in mind if you're around the Seattle region going into next week. But I'm gonna show you this pattern so you guys get a better idea of what's going on around that region, because I want to really really want to show you guys what's going on. So this, as of right now, you can see that there's just enough of a weakness around the Northwest Pacific region that all these low pressure systems that's pretty much following the jet stream has pretty much an open area to where the Northwest Pacific will get impacted by a lot of these low pressure systems, since this high pressure is far south enough to allow that jet stream to bring a stream of low pressure systems to the Northwest Pacific. If that high pressure was a little bit more north, that jet stream would probably miss out on a lot of these on the Northwest Pacific, because low pressures as a result of the stronger than usual ridge in this area would be forced up and over the Northwest Pacific. But since this high pressure is far south of us, we're seeing a strong stream of low pressures impacting the Northwest Pacific, and that's expected to continue over the next several days, as a European is currently showing. That high pressure just isn't moving far north enough to where it could block these low pressure systems. So in the Northwest Pacific, expect a lot of rain, expect a lot of snow in the higher elevations, and then maybe later during the week you might experience a decent amount of snow even in the lowlands like Seattle, which is something to keep in mind. This is the snowfall expecting over the next 24 hours, and we're expecting over a foot in the higher elevations, just to the west, to the east of Seattle. So for those skiers and stuff, that should be a good weekend for you go skiing. But keep in mind that later during the week we could see it's just gonna rain a lot around Seattle area, and that could cause flooding in the Northwest Pacific. So keep in mind that. But other than the stream of low pressure systems impacting the Northwest Pacific and the small low pressure system that's bringing a decent amount of snow to the Northeast, where we're gonna talk about something bigger that could impact a lot of the U.S. to be honest, probably more than half the U.S. So I'm gonna show you the GFS model and what it's saying currently to get a better idea of what's going on. Let me pull up the US map, and I'm gonna show you the precipitation so you get a better idea of what's rain and what's snow. So this currently, as of right now, we see the low pressure system of snow, and that low pressure system will develop, but it's gonna develop too late and it's gonna move too fast to where any major impacts in the Northeast will happen. And as for the Northwest, we're still seeing the stream of low pressure systems impact the higher elevations and bringing rain to lower elevations like Seattle. So moving forward, we're gonna from this stream, and this stream is gonna be important later during the week, because that one of the low pressures will be just cold enough to where it might, and will bring just enough northwest winds to where it might bring enough cold air to really set the foundation of the bigger snowstorm that's expected to come in the 12th, that might be major for the Great Lakes and interior northeast regions later during the week, because of how strong that because of the instability. And since that small clipper system that originated from the northwest will create just enough instability to where we'll see rain, and since that low pressure system is located right around this area and the high pressure system is located around this area, as you should know that low pressure systems and high pressure systems create, when they're close together, they create wind. And since they're relatively close to each other, we will see a strong southwest wind, and from the southwest we have Mexico, we have the warm waters of the Gulf, and that's going to bring a lot of Gulf moisture and warm air up to the north, and it will encounter some of the cooler air that this low pressure will bring down and and create an area of rain and lower pressure in this area that will be the foundation to the bigger snowstorm that's expected to come later during the week, as another clipper system again originates from the Pacific Northwest, as this is going to be quite a pattern for probably the next 2 weeks, where we're just going to see a stream of Pacific Northwest storms continue to impact the northern the U.S. and potentially originate snowstorms as a result of that. So that clipper system drops down, and then it drops down the jet stream and the cool air far south enough to where it creates a strong instability within this region around the southeast, and as a result, severe thunderstorms are expected. As I could say that with confidence, because that because the instability will be just strong enough to where we'll experience some type of severe thunderstorm threat in the southeast. How strong it'll be is still the question, and and really how intense the storms will be, and if it's tornadic will be the question over the next several days. Since we're going 4 days out, it gets a little bit uncertain, especially when we're talking about specific details. So keep that in mind. But that cold pressure that will create enough instability to where it will create a pretty strong snowstorm could create a pretty strong snowstorm in the Great Lakes region. And then if we continue to move forward, it grows even stronger as it encounters more baroclinic instability at where the even interior northeast could be affected. Now, there's still a lot of uncertainty because if that like low pressure or that clipper system from the northwest doesn't drop far south enough, then there won't be that much instability to really create a storm that's really as strong as we're anticipating right now. However, there's also a possibility it drops more south, as we're talking about 3 to 5 days out. It gets a little uncertain, and if it does drop more south, it'll create more instability and as a result create a more intense snowstorm for a lot of the U.S., which is something to keep in mind. But so we just gotta keep track of how far south and north this clipper system around Friday the 10th drops, because that'll pretty much set the foundation of how intense this storm will be. As the current 5-day forecast is, we're expecting if this were the case right now, there's still a lot of uncertainty. I don't want you guys to take this as gospel just yet, because we're talking about 4 to 5 days out. But if this were the case, we'll see around a pretty significant snow event, probably around 8 to 12 inches for a lot of the Great Lakes region and the interior northeast, and especially Maine, where they could experience up to a foot if this were true. But there's still a lot of uncertainty. Like I said, I'm gonna keep repeating that because I want to emphasize that, and I don't want you guys to take this as serious. But over the next several days, we have to keep track of how far south these clipper systems go to create that instability. But anyways, guys, I guess I'll end it on here. I thank you guys for watching. For Northeast, especially Pennsylvania and certain portions of the Northeast, make sure to prepare for a small snowstorm that could create slick travel conditions. And for Northwest, just be prepared for a lot of precipitation, and Seattle could experience a snow event going into 14th. So just keep track of your weather forecast and keep track of my videos if you want, and make sure to like if you like it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I hope you guys have a great day.